What brand of oil? Well, I've got Mobil 1, right? And what oil do I use? It's that age-old question that it's popping up a lot on Facebook. It's good that people are asking. It's not a stupid question. So you get a car and you want to take care of it. People tell you to take care of it and you're wondering what that entails. Well, one of the things that it goes with it is keeping up on your engine, making sure that you get the oil changed and that you keep the oil full, or at least at a safe level. Depending on the engine, right, it's going to depend on what oil that you're going to use. It's really not that complicated though. You go down Walmart and they got like 30 or 50 different types of oils. You know, they got different brands, they've got different weights. And you're looking at it all like, ooh, oh my gosh, what do I get? It's not that complicated. You want to do an oil change yourself to save some money? That's fine, it's super easy. What oil are you going to put in it? Well, the way that you find out is you look on the oil filler cap.
That is the dipstick. That's to check the oil. There we go. That's the oil filler cap. SAE 5W20. Now, if you go to the store and you're looking for oil, you're like, oh, how do I find SAE 5W20? Well, SAE is probably going to be on every single bottle of oil anyway. So you look for motor oil, and look for that 5W20.
Here is the Tahoe. There's the oil filler cap. SAE 5W30. The yellow one is the dipstick for the crankcase oil. Engine oil. Another way is the manual. My cover has been ripped off of this, but this is the manual for the Tahoe. What kind of engine oil to use? Inside the manual it explains. And it also explains what's recommended at certain temperatures. The type of oil you're going to use is dependent on what temperatures the engine is going to be used in. Most of the time, what they say in the manual is what you want to go with, and it's covered with almost worldwide. If you can't find the manual, you got a used car, you don't have the manual, look in your glove box, or you can Google it. Now, some engines use thicket oil, some engines use thin oil. Gas engines are going to be different than diesels. Diesels most of the time run thicker oils. It depends on the application that the engine's going to put it on. And nowadays, nobody's running a straight weight oil. It's like a mixture. You've got two numbers on the oil, and the W number stands for what the oil will act like at a cold temperature. And the other number will determine what the oil will act like at a hot temperature. So you've got two weights pretty much on your oil. Depending on whether the oil is hot or cold, it'll act differently. Unless you just get a straight weight oil. People are flaming people on all over the internet when they ask it, but in reality there's nothing wrong with asking it. When people say put olive oil or vegetable oil in the car, is it better to have some oil in your car compared to no oil? Yeah, absolutely. If you put the wrong kind of oil in your car, it's really not that bad. It's not as bad as what some people think it is. Now, if you've got a brand new car, then you really don't want to be putting a whole bunch of different types of things in the car. You want to stick to whatever the manual says. But if you have a used car, and it runs good, it's not the end of the world. Any car you have, no matter what it is, at the end of the day, if you put oil in it, that is more important than having no oil in it. This car, this is a Mazda 3. It's a 2008, so it's relatively new. This engine calls for 5W20. I use Mobil 1, 5W20. This is advanced full synthetic. It's a little bit more of the pricier stuff. And why do I use this? This car has got 200,000 miles on it, pretty much. Full synthetics are awesome oils. They're really good. There's rumors saying that they create leaks in the engine, which has been proven that they don't. You're wondering where they've been proven that they don't? Project Farm is a great YouTube. he's tested full synthetic oils on old engines to see if it will create oil leaks. He didn't find any. I'm sure there's other ways that it's been proven. Full synthetic is the way to go. If you go to Walmart nowadays, you're not going to find anything that's straight conventional anymore anyways. Doesn't matter synthetic versus conventional. At the end of the day, you change your oil regularly. 3,000 miles to 5,000 miles. Some people go 10,000 miles. I don't really recommend to do that. In places like Canada, they've done some news programs where they say that you can go 20,000 miles, or once a year you can do an oil change. They say that the dealerships are trying to get money from people from oil changes. That is BS. The engine oil gets dirty. It's gonna need to be changed. The dirtier it gets, the worse it works. And it's not just the oil that you're changing, it's the filter. The filter is gonna get clogged eventually. So the big thing with oil is to keep it at a safe level and to change it regularly. What do? I do 3,000 miles. Occasionally I miss it, and I really don't go further than 5,000 miles on any of my rigs. But my cars are high mileage cars. I like to change them frequently because you know what? Changing the engine oil is a lot easier than dealing with replacing an engine. What the oil will do, right? It's in your engine. The byproducts, the carbon is going to come into the oil, right? It's going to, when you get your oil and it's fresh, it's transparent, it's clear, it's hard to see. Over time, it'll start to get dirty or it'll change color. That's normally how I detect whether I'm going to change my oil or not, is based off of color and miles that I've driven. When the engine oil changes color, the oil is telling you something. It's also sucking in the contaminants out of the crankcase, which is good. That's what you want. You don't want it to sit in there too long, because when the oil absorbs too much of the contaminants, it loses its ability to lubricate the engine. What brand of oil do I use? Well, this one is Mobil 1, and I'm not here to sell anything, but this is just what I use. This is what I use for this car, and it's good oil. Really, when you go through the brands, the differences are so small. It's better to have the oil than not have the oil, yet again. This car, I use Mobil 1 full synthetic. Fram is an advanced auto parts brand. It's just their cheap stuff. That's where you're going to find conventional oil. I use this in the Tahoe. The Tahoe leaks oil. I buy the cheaper stuff, but I change it all the time. The Tahoe gets regular changes. Sometimes I change it at stupid low miles, but I change the oil and the engine runs good. It's got 220,000 miles on it. Tahoe calls for 5W30. It's on the oil filler cap. When I can stop all those oil leaks, then I will switch that to full synthetic. Until then, it's just going to stick with conventional. There's no reason to change it. This is a cheap brand. Mobil 1's an expensive brand. Are they different? They're different in very minuscule amounts. Project Farm, yet again, good YouTube. He's done lots of tests, testing different oils, their flow rates, all that stuff. For the everyday person, you know, you're not racing the car. You're just driving to work, driving to go get groceries, whatever. It doesn't really matter what brand you use for the most part. Pennzoil. I've heard bad things about Pennzoil. That Pennzoil creates a varnish on the engine. Don't know 100%, but I've been told, word of mouth, from mechanics that I know, that Pennzoil does leave a varnish. Why do certain cars use certain oils? Okay, so this car is newer, 2008, uses 5W20 opposed to the Tahoe, which uses 5W30. The Tahoe is a 2003, so it's a little bit older, not that much. More cars nowadays are turbocharged. It's been the last 10 years, more and more cars are becoming turbocharged. The turbochargers require oil also. It's not a different system in the engine, but it's another part of the oil system that's asking to be lubricated. And they have to be lubricated well, otherwise they'll fail and they're expensive. So typically what automakers did was they went to a thinner oil to get oil to the car parts quicker. and yet it still does a good job at 5W20 to lubricate the engine. If I put this in the Tahoe, would it make a difference? Differences that it would make. Well, my oil pressure would change. My oil flow would change. Am I going to know about the flow? No, I'm not, unless I tear the engine apart and rebuild it after extensive use. But if I put this in the Tahoe, would the engine know anything different? If I'm stranded somewhere and I need oil, I'll put this in the Tahoe. When I get to wherever I'm going, I will change the oil out completely and put one straight weight of oil in it. Not straight weight, but what kind of oils do you want to avoid putting in your car? Well, hydraulic oil. You really don't want to put that in the car. Would it do something? Yeah, it would. Would it do very good? Probably not. So that's power steering fluid, automatic transmission fluid. At the end of the day, they're all oils, but you don't want to put it in there. People use automatic transmission fluid to clean out their engine. You know what? There's lots of people that do it. It's probably okay to do. I've never done it personally. People put other chemicals in their crankcase to clean it up. Why does temperature matter? Well, it matters because when oils are cold, they get thick, and it takes harder for them to move. It's harder for them to get pumped through the engine. When the oil is cold, the oil is thick. If you have an oil pressure gauge in your car, when it's cold, it'll give you a higher pressure readout when the oil is thick. When that oil gets warm up to operating temperature, the oil pressure will drop down. Is it okay? Yeah, it is okay. As long as your oil pressure is between, it's different for each vehicle. At 30 to 60 psi, you've got good oil pressure. Oil pressure versus oil flow are two different things. You can have a really thick oil, right? You can have high oil pressure, but you're not going to have good flow. Is there a way of seeing how your oil's flowing? No, there's not really, unless you rebuild the engine and then you look at everything, you measure all the engine parts out to see how much worn they have, how worn they are. So when you stick to what's recommended by the manufacturer, you're going to have good oil pressure. As long as the engine's in good health, you'll have good oil pressure, and then you'll have good flow. Okay, so the Tahoe, right? Tahoe runs recommended 5W30. The manual also says 10W30 is okay if that's all that's available. Is the engine going to see a 10W30 difference? Probably not. The pressure might be a few psi higher, especially at cold temperatures. Maybe it's a little bit higher. If I put in 1540, is the engine going to know? Yeah, the pressure will change in that situation. 40-degree day, the pressure when I start it up, it'll be spiking at about 80 psi, most likely. When the oil warms up, the pressure will drop. Will it be okay at that point? Yeah, it will probably be okay. Like I said, if I'm driving on a road trip and I need oil, I don't have any on me, I can't find 5W30, no matter what engine oil they have, I will put it in there because it's better to have that than nothing at all. Engine oil is very important, just like gas. In fact, in some ways, it's more important than gas. If you run out of gas, you're stranded, right? You need to tow back to wherever you got to get some more gas. If you run out of oil, your engine could blow up. You're not going to be able to just go somewhere and get another engine that easily. Engine oil is super important. People tend to neglect it. My point here is that you could put in different oil types in your engine and get away with it. If I mix 5W30 with 10W30 or 1540, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to get to where I'm going, right? And when I get home or wherever, I'll get the oil changed and I'll put all 5W30 back in it. Everything will be just fine. Conventional versus full synthetic. What if I can't find conventional? What if I can't find full synthetic? Mix them. Put dang oil in the car. How often do I check my oil? Well, how often do you drive the car? That kind of depends on it. You could either be driving your car all the time. Depends on how often you put gas in the car. If you put gas in the car every week, you probably want to check the oil every time you get gas. That's a good rule of thumb, is to check the oil every time you get gas. Sometimes you don't get gas as much as once a week. And you know what? Checking the oil every time you get gas can be a lot. But get an idea for what the car is doing, and then you don't have to check it as often. I try and stick to my things of every time I get gas, but I don't always do it. I do check my oil regularly. And it's another thing, don't wait for an oil change to find out how much oil you have in your car. Otherwise it could lead to catastrophe. So a good rule of thumb, check the oil every time you get gas. If you want to check it every 2 weeks, that's fine. At least you're checking it. It's better than not checking it. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you didn't fall asleep. If you did, fine. At least you fell asleep. At least you're getting some sleep. Like, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications on new videos. And there goes a car going by.